Hey everyone, it's the Todfather 6. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to my new series, Is It Worth It? In this series, I want to play and review some of the free games that are available on Steam and give my opinion if they're really worth playing and worth your time. I want to find those games that are free but are still hidden gems and you should definitely add to your collection. Now granted, there will also be games in this series that aren't going to be worth it in my opinion. Today, we're looking at the December 2022 release of Babbdi, a short and very dark independent game developed and produced by brothers Sirius and Leonard Lemater. Apologies now in advance. I probably butchered those names. They are French, and that is not my strong suit. Overall, the aesthetic of the game comes across as surreal at best. The city of Babbdi itself is filled with very hard-lined concrete sky rises and is surrounded by high-angled fencing. The city is almost like an island, being as it's set in the middle of a murky, muddy canal, and the only way out of Babbdi is by train. The only way to get on the train is with a ticket, and it only stops for someone with a ticket. There are some green spaces and signs of life. One notable one is a small park that you can interact in. It looks like it's been used by children recently, though throughout the game, you can't find any ever. Like they're nowhere to be found. So, what do you say we dive in and find out if Babbdi, is it worth it? So like I previously alluded to in the intro, the goal of the player character is to escape the city by train. In order to do this, the player has to acquire a train ticket somehow. The only place the player can get it? The information center, which happens to be on the far end of the city above the canal. The player, through ingenuity and risky platforming, has to find a way to scale the far end of the canal to get to the center to get a ticket. The platforming is the key element, in my opinion, of this game. First-person platforming can get difficult if you're not familiar with it from a mechanical perspective. It can also be brutal when factoring in fall damage, and however, the Lemater brothers appear to have thought this through and did not incorporate fall damage or any damage into the game. While exploring the city, it often feels like platforming is heavily encouraged to take risks with platforming, often getting into areas that otherwise would not be possible. Now, back to that no damage thing within the game. There's absolutely zero combat as well as no puzzles. The singular goal of the player is to get a ticket to get out of Babbdi. Overall, the game seems to have been received very well. Steam has the game listed as overwhelmingly positive, and there have been other reviewers who have given high praise to the game. Edwin Evans-Thirlwell from The Guardian stated, Babbdi has a retro ambience that goes beyond its low-resolution textures, its brevity, and open-endedness makes me think of the magazine demo disc levels I'd hoard and replay as a teen. Rainer Sigl wrote from Der Standard, a German online magazine that I used Google Translate from German to English to read, stated, weird, entertaining, and above all, free. In an article written by Jonathan Bolding for PC Gamer, it was stated, the environments are compelling in a lo-fi way, cast entirely in dull grays and greens with occasional splashes of light and color, and comprised entirely of crumbling brutalist concrete and architecture. Another rave review comes from Rock Paper Shotgun's associate editor, Alice O'Connor. I like exploring this weird, unpleasant place. Not quite sure what's going on. Not quite sure if I'm doing something that's meant to happen or not. Overall, it appears that Babbdi was a hit with players and critics alike, and I actually agree with these reviews. All right, let's break it down to the gameplay. Babbdi is a controller-friendly game, but as with all games on PC, it can be used with mouse and keyboard. In my playthrough on controller, I found that some of the hotkeys on the keyboard made access to like the library and the map a lot easier to use than using the subsequent menus that you would find those features in. If you're a mouse and keyboard player, I definitely suggest using mouse and keyboard because that's what you're used to. But if you are a controller player like I am, I really do suggest being more flexible with using the hotkeys on the keyboard because it's going to make the quality of life a lot easier for you in the game when you're trying to access things. Babbdi is only available for PC, Linux, and Mac systems. So if you're a console player, I'm sorry you can't experience this game on your chosen device. The pacing of the character is relatively fast and the character moves smoothly throughout the environment, but not to a point where the player feels like they're losing control. There are some very unique items that are available throughout the game too. Useful items include a baseball bat, flashlights, a motorcycle for even faster movement around the city, a leaf blower that help you get to those high out of reach places, and for some reason, a trumpet. There are also interesting and unique collectibles within the game. These range from bottles of wine, a pistol that's unusable, a box of crayons, and various food items. If you're a completionist and want all the collectibles, it'll take time to hunt them down throughout the city. On average, gameplay for Babbdi should take you around an hour, with completionists taking a little bit longer in order to find each and every collectible item. It took me about 55 minutes without hunting down all of the collectible items and exploring the city quite a bit. So, what are my thoughts on Babbdi? Overall, I enjoyed my time playing the game. Once I realized that platforming was a heavily encouraged tactic to be used, it made getting around the city a lot faster and more interesting. Aesthetically speaking, the game is certainly different. The game is very dark in regards to the structure built within the city. However, there are some lighter areas that show nature and beauty within this industrially heavy setting as well. One of the most unsettling parts of the game are the few NPCs that you will run into when playing. The NPCs have this uncanny valley feeling to them. There are no voiceovers, just garbled language that is translated to English via subtitles. Each and every one does not blink at all, just staring at you blankly. Many have odd body poses and actions that appear unnatural. The subtitles at times feel like the sentence structure is strange, not wrong, but strange. However, with this game being developed in France, it is likely that it is more of a translation issue as opposed to an intentional device for the NPCs. I think the game, as a first-person game, moves very well from a first-person perspective. There's a lot of room to move within its design, and the sandbox and platforming was programmed very nicely, especially with the lack of fall damage. I can see this impacting a lot of speedrunners for this game, which apparently there is an option because the game does time your total gameplay from start to finish. Unique collectibles are a nice touch, especially for completionists. However, there are odd choices. Odd-looking metal statues, a pistol, bottles of wine. These are all found within the environment, but do take some time to find and look for. The setting is overall very stark and left me feeling kind of empty inside. Some of the NPCs that I was able to interact with were indeed helpful, dropping little hints or outright telling me what you need to do to succeed, whereas others were just living their lives. However, there are some NPCs that are just outright rude, which is an interesting touch. Overall, if you're looking for a game with an odd or somewhat uncanny feeling to play, this is the game for you. It is interesting to play and has a unique style that lends itself to be endearing in an industrial postmodern kind of way. The fact that the game is free on Steam helps the selling point in regards to encouraging people to play it. Though it has some objectives, the game has no walkthrough capability, and you're kind of left to your own devices. If you have the patience to learn as you go and experience the game with an open mind, then this game is absolutely for you, especially if you enjoy a bit of the darker themes in your gaming experience. However, if you want a cozy, relaxing game with bright colors, there are other games coming to this series that I'm sure you'll enjoy much more. So in closing, for a short game with such a unique art style, Babbdi is right up my alley personally. Though it initially does look like an industrial horror title, there's nothing really hard baked into it that would cause a jump scare. However, the loneliness one can feel when playing the game, the despair that can be apparent when traversing the city and its heights, and the strange interactions with the odd-looking NPCs can cause a bit of paranoia and anxiety, pushing you to reach for the ultimate goal: leave Babbdi. Are there other games like this that you've played? What would you suggest for someone who has completed this game? Comment down below with your suggestions. Thanks for watching.
Hey everybody, Toddfather6 here signing off. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you want to see more, click the videos that are listed or hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications in order to be notified when I've got more posted. Until then, as always, be good, be kind, be safe. See you next time.